Welcome to Bedtime True Crime, the YouTube channel that takes you on a haunting exploration of the world of true crime, serial killers, and unsolved mysteries. Join us as we journey into the shadows, unearthing spine-tingling tales that will keep you awake at night. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss another thrilling episode. Now get comfortable, turn off the lights, and prepare to be captivated by the sinister side of human nature as we delve into today's bone-chilling story. In the late 19th century, Austin, Texas was a city on the rise. The booming economy, fueled by railroad expansion and new industries, attracted people from all walks of life seeking their fortune in this thriving metropolis. Yet beneath the bustling streets lurked an unimaginable darkness that would soon cast its shadow over the once peaceful town. The year was 1884, when terror first gripped Austin's affluent neighborhoods as a series of brutal slayings unfolded. The victims were primarily African-American servant girls working for wealthy white families, innocent young women unaware they had become prey to a ruthless predator whose sadistic crimes would leave an indelible mark on history. As we delve into this harrowing tale, you'll discover how these horrific events unraveled and learn about the tireless efforts made by law enforcement to apprehend this elusive killer. You'll also be introduced to some shocking theories surrounding his identity, including one that suggests he may have been none other than Jack the Ripper himself. We begin our spine-tingling journey with whispers of gruesome murders echoing through Austin's cobblestone streets, chilling residents to their core. Fear spread like wildfire as news broke of yet another victim discovered mutilated beyond recognition. What kind of monster could carry out such unspeakable acts? And more importantly, how long before he struck again? Stay with us, dear listeners, as we embark on this gripping exploration into one of America's most terrifying unsolved mysteries, the Servant Girl Annihilator. Prepare yourself for a heart-pounding adventure where every twist and turn will keep you guessing until the very end. On the night of December 30th, 1884, a sinister presence lurked in the shadows of Austin's affluent neighborhood. Molly Smith, a young African-American servant girl employed by a prominent family, lay asleep in her modest detached quarters behind the main house, unaware of the impending horror that awaited her. Under the cloak of darkness, an intruder silently broke into Molly's room and unleashed a brutal assault with an axe. The killer showed no mercy as he dragged her lifeless body outside into the cold night air. There, amidst the moonlit shadows, he continued his savage attack, mutilating her corpse until it was barely recognizable. But there was another chilling detail. Molly wasn't alone that fateful night. Her boyfriend Walter Spencer had been sleeping beside her when the attacker struck. Miraculously, despite suffering severe head injuries during the onslaught, Walter managed to survive this horrific ordeal. Awoken by the commotion and terrified screams echoing through the stillness of night, neighbors hastily alerted authorities who arrived at the gruesome scene. They were confronted with blood-soaked sheets strewn across Molly's floor and signs of struggle both inside and outside her room. As investigators meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene for clues, they unearthed something even more disturbing. Footprints leading away from Molly's body towards nearby bushes, where someone seemed to have watched and waited before striking their prey. This bone-chilling revelation sent shockwaves through their spines. Not only did they face a brutal murderer, but one who appeared to stalk his victims with calculating precision. The haunting image of those footprints etched itself into their minds as they desperately sought answers. Little did they know that these initial discoveries would be just beginning of a terrifying journey into darkness. Over the course of a year, Austin found itself in the grip of terror as a string of chillingly similar attacks unfolded. The killer's modus operandi was consistent and calculated. He targeted young African-American servant girls residing in detached quarters behind their employers' homes. Each unsuspecting victim was brutally assaulted with an axe or another sharp instrument while they slumbered, only to be dragged outside where the horrifying mutilation continued. On May 6, 1885, Eliza Shelley faced her tragic demise at the merciless hands of this elusive predator. Much like Molly Smith before her, she had been fast asleep when the attacker silently broke into her room and unleashed his gruesome assault. Once satisfied with his cruel handiwork, he left Eliza's lifeless body abandoned on the ground, just mere steps from her employer's house, a haunting reminder of the evil that now lurked within their once peaceful community. As fear spread through Austin like wildfire, news emerged of yet another brutal slaying on August 30th. Irene Cross became this bloodthirsty monster's latest prey. However, there was one crucial difference this time around. Instead of being killed with an axe like those before her, Irene suffered multiple stab wounds so vicious that they nearly severed her head from her body. Despite managing to let out a scream loud enough for neighbors to hear during the attack, Irene ultimately succumbed to her injuries. Investigators scrambled to make sense of these bone-chilling crimes as they pieced together evidence from each scene. What they discovered sent shivers down their spines. Not only did it appear that the Servant Girl Annihilator was escalating in violence, but also becoming bolder in his choice of victims. This unnerving revelation raised even more questions among law enforcement. What drove this ruthless predator? And how long would it be until he struck again? The dark cloud hanging over Austin grew heavier by the day, as residents anxiously awaited answers and justice for the innocent lives taken by this faceless monster. On the fateful night of November 26, 1885, a sinister presence returned to terrorize Austin's upscale neighborhoods. In an unsettling twist, this time 2 women fell victim in one chilling spree. Susan Hancock, a white woman residing with her family in an elegant home, found herself targeted by the merciless killer. As she lay asleep in her bed, completely unaware of the danger lurking nearby, the attacker broke into her sanctuary and unleashed his brutal rage upon her with an axe. Susan's daughter stumbled upon the horrifying scene, her mother lying unconscious on the floor, drenched in blood. Desperate attempts were made to save Susan as she was rushed for medical attention. However, fate had other plans. She tragically succumbed to her injuries later that day. The Servant Girl Annihilator had not only grown more brazen by invading the main house, but also expanded his choice of victims beyond African-American servant girls. Meanwhile, under the cover of darkness and just blocks away from where Susan Hancock met her gruesome end, Eula Phillips faced a similarly terrifying ordeal. Like Susan, Eula belonged to one of Austin's wealthier families and shared their pale complexion. Her husband would be the one to discover her lifeless body outside their residence after being alerted by frantic screams echoing through their backyard. The macabre scene bore all too familiar hallmarks of previous attacks attributed to this elusive monster. Eula had been savagely beaten with an axe before being dragged out into the open yard where unspeakable mutilation ensued. Blood-stained grass served as evidence of his cruel handiwork. As fear tightened its grip on Austin once again, investigators raced against time to uncover any leads or connections between these horrific slayings, desperate to apprehend this ruthless predator before he could claim more innocent lives. Unbeknownst to them at that moment, though, even darker days loomed ominously ahead. On the chilling night of Christmas Eve, 1885, the Servant Girl Annihilator orchestrated his most appalling attack yet. In one single blood-curdling spree, he targeted 2 separate households and claimed 4 innocent lives, each victim savagely murdered. The first household belonged to Moses Hancock, where terror unfolded as both husband and wife were attacked while they lay vulnerable in their sleep. Gracie Vance, an African-American servant girl residing with her boyfriend Orange Washington in a small room behind the main house, became the monster's next prey. With brutal force, the killer wielded his axe upon them before dragging their bodies into the cold darkness outside. Piercing screams echoed through the air, alerting neighbors who hastily rushed to investigate. They discovered Gracie lying on the frost-covered ground near her quarters, her body mutilated beyond recognition. Her boyfriend Orange clung desperately to life nearby, but ultimately succumbed to his grievous injuries later that day. In proximity to this horrifying scene, just blocks away at James Phillips Sr.'s residence, another gruesome tableau awaited discovery. Rebecca Ramey, daughter-in-law of James Phillips, and her young son Jimmy found themselves defenseless against this merciless predator's wrath. As mother and child slept side by side in their bed, they too were bludgeoned with an axe in a sickening display of violence. Rebecca's lifeless body was then dragged out into the yard where further depravities took place, her corpse desecrated in ways unimaginable to those who stumbled upon it. Astonishingly, though, little Jimmy managed to survive despite suffering severe head wounds during the assault, a glimmer of hope amidst such unrelenting horror. As Austin reeled from these shocking events and fear coursed through its streets once more, law enforcement doubled down on their efforts, scouring every inch for clues or leads that might bring them closer to apprehending this elusive monster who haunted their once peaceful community. In the aftermath of these horrifying attacks, authorities launched a relentless manhunt to capture the Servant Girl Annihilator. With immense pressure from both the public and their superiors, investigators faced an uphill battle in solving these grisly crimes that had left Austin reeling. From the onset, numerous obstacles plagued the investigation. The crime scenes themselves provided scant evidence. Footprints discovered near some victims' bodies were inconsistent, leaving detectives uncertain if they belonged to one individual or multiple culprits. Given that forensic science was still in its infancy during this time period, modern techniques such as DNA analysis were unavailable to assist law enforcement. Undeterred by these limitations, authorities employed every resource at their disposal. Bloodhounds scoured the streets for potential suspects, while detectives tirelessly interviewed countless witnesses and pursued various leads. One intriguing aspect of the case involved anonymous letters sent to local newspapers claiming responsibility for the murders. However, none could be definitively linked to any known suspect. As weeks turned into months without substantial progress, frustration mounted among law enforcement officials who felt increasingly powerless against this seemingly unstoppable force of evil. In a desperate bid to break new ground in their search for answers, investigators turned their attention towards analyzing patterns within each attack. They noticed that all incidents occurred on moonlit nights when visibility would have been optimal for stalking prey undetected. A chilling revelation which further fueled speculation about the killer's identity and motives. Despite their unwavering commitment and tireless efforts, no concrete connections could be established between any individuals and these gruesome slayings. This lack of progress only served to exacerbate tensions within the community as fear continued to grip Austin's residents. As months stretched into years with no significant breakthroughs in sight, questions began swirling around whether justice would ever truly be served for those innocent lives brutally taken by this elusive monster. As the investigation into the Servant Girl Annihilator's heinous crimes continued, heart-wrenching stories of the victims and their families emerged. These innocent young women had been targeted in their most vulnerable state, asleep in their own beds, completely unaware of the horrors that awaited them. Molly Smith, Eliza Shelley, Irene Cross, Susan Hancock, Eula Phillips, Gracie Vance, Rebecca Ramey, each one a tragic reminder of lives cruelly cut short by this merciless killer. Their loved ones were left to pick up the shattered pieces and grapple with these senseless acts of violence. The anguish felt by friends and family members is palpable as they mourned for those lost while living under a cloud of fear. Survivor accounts also surfaced during this time, offering valuable insights into the attacker's methods and possible motivations. Walter Spencer endured unimaginable terror when his girlfriend Molly Smith was attacked beside him, miraculously surviving despite suffering severe injuries himself. His account provided crucial information about how stealthily the assailant moved through the night. Little Jimmy Ramey demonstrated remarkable resilience after being brutally assaulted alongside his mother Rebecca, clinging onto life despite sustaining grave wounds inflicted upon him at such a tender age. Orange Washington fought valiantly for his life after being struck down with an axe, but ultimately succumbed to his grievous injuries. These survivors' harrowing experiences painted a chilling picture of what it must have been like on those fateful nights, lying defenseless in bed, only to be violently awakened by an unseen monster lurking within shadows cast by moonlight. Each survivor bore witness to unspeakable brutality, yet somehow found strength amidst chaos wrought upon them. Despite having first-hand accounts from these brave individuals who narrowly escaped death's grasp, authorities still struggled to piece together a clear profile of this elusive predator or bring him to justice. With every new lead followed and subsequently exhausted frustration grew among law enforcement, as did the relentless dread that gripped Austin's residents. The families of those lost continued to grieve deeply for their loved ones while living under a cloud of fear and uncertainty. They wondered if this faceless monster would ever be caught, or whether they could find solace in knowing justice had been served for these innocent lives brutally taken from them. As weeks turned into months without any significant breakthroughs, hope dwindled, leaving unanswered questions echoing through the darkened streets of Austin. As the relentless pursuit for the Servant Girl Annihilator persisted, a myriad of unsettling theories emerged concerning his identity and motivations. Some postulated that he was an Austin local with intimate knowledge of its streets and neighborhoods, enabling him to navigate undetected as he stalked his prey. Another conjecture suggested that he might have been a transient worker or drifter passing through town, someone without ties to the community, making it challenging to trace his whereabouts. This theory gained traction when investigators discovered similar axe murders in other cities across America during this time period, igniting suspicions that these crimes could be interconnected. An especially spine-chilling hypothesis proposed that none other than Jack the Ripper himself may have been responsible for these brutal slayings. While concrete evidence linking these two cases is scarce, certain eerie similarities between their respective crime scenes and patterns of violence led some down this dark path. The psychological profile of the Servant Girl Annihilator remains shrouded in speculation due to limited information about his methods and motives. However, what can be inferred from his actions paints a nightmarish picture: a cold-blooded predator who derived perverse pleasure from inflicting unimaginable pain on innocent young women, an individual capable of committing unspeakable acts without remorse or fear of capture. Despite pursuing numerous leads and interrogating potential suspects over the years, authorities never managed to conclusively identify or apprehend this enigmatic monster. As each new lead dissipated into thin air, frustration mounted among law enforcement officials, all while lingering questions haunted them relentlessly. What drove this ruthless killer? How did he manage to evade detection so skillfully? Throughout this exhaustive manhunt, tantalizing clues surfaced only to evaporate just beyond reach, leaving behind a trail strewn with unanswered questions and agonizing uncertainty. The chilling specter of doubt loomed heavily over those dedicated individuals who sought answers amidst shadows cast by moonlight. As we delve deeper into the darkness, prepare to confront even more haunting revelations and spine-tingling twists that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this elusive monster, the Servant Girl Annihilator. The exhaustive manhunt for the Servant Girl Annihilator saw authorities leaving no stone unturned in their relentless pursuit of justice. A myriad of suspects found themselves under scrutiny, ranging from local residents to transient workers passing through Austin's once peaceful streets. Among them was a Malaysian cook named Maurice, employed at a hotel situated perilously close to one of the crime scenes. On the fateful night of a murder, he had been spotted acting suspiciously, and was later found to possess an axe eerily similar to those used in some attacks. Despite intense interrogation and round-the-clock surveillance, there simply wasn't enough evidence to charge him or conclusively link him to any ghastly crimes. Intriguingly, investigators stumbled upon another potential lead when they unearthed records of several African-American men arrested for unrelated offenses around the time of the killings. Whispers spread throughout law enforcement circles that these individuals may have formed a clandestine society responsible for carrying out these brutal slayings as part of twisted initiation rituals. Yet this theory ultimately crumbled beneath further scrutiny, with no concrete connections between these men and the Servant Girl Annihilator's gruesome deeds ever coming to light. As years slipped by without any significant breakthroughs in the case, public interest waned until it eventually evaporated into obscurity like fog dissipating under sunlight. The trail grew cold and frostbitten. Unanswered questions loomed heavily over all who sought answers. Who was this merciless killer? What dark desires drove him to target these innocent young women? And perhaps most hauntingly, did he ever truly face justice? Over a century has passed since terror first gripped Austin's cobblestone streets, yet the identity of the Servant Girl Annihilator remains shrouded within shadows cast by history, his chilling legacy forever etched into its darkest corners. As we reach the chilling conclusion of our journey into the dark world of the Servant Girl Annihilator, Let us not forget that behind these harrowing tales are real people whose lives were irrevocably altered by these nightmarish events. The victims and their families continue to seek justice and closure, a quest that may never be fulfilled due to the passage of time. The sinister story of this unidentified killer serves as an unnerving reminder of the malevolent forces that can lurk within seemingly ordinary communities. It underscores the importance of remaining vigilant in our pursuit of truth and justice for those who have been wronged. As you ponder over this spine-tingling tale, remember that it is but one among countless others waiting to be uncovered from history's darkest corners. Who knows what other unsolved mysteries lay dormant, shrouded in shadows, awaiting discovery. And so, dear listeners, stay alert and keep your wits about you as you navigate through life's uncharted paths. For now, though, allow us to bid you farewell until next time when we delve once more into another gripping true crime saga, one sure to leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about human nature and its propensity for evil. Stay tuned, fellow night owls. There are many more twisted tales yet to come.